This is something that I think is really important when it comes to getting into your top speed. I see guys that I think are making mistakes within this part of the run, and I think it really ends up impacting their ability to get to top speed and be able to do that as smoothly as possible, right? So we'll go ahead and hop right into it here. We're looking at Marcell Jacobs. I think he does an excellent job at being able to, just from a sprint mechanics perspective, he's just very, very clean. And so we'll go through the start, and what ends up happening a lot of times here is as guys are getting closer to their top speed, or they're getting out of their start phase, what ends up happening, especially people that have been getting coached to be able to keep their legs low and their feet low back behind, is that now there becomes a time period where if the ability to really create good horizontal force hasn't been achieved, then as they get into the drive phase, a lot of times they'll revert back into creating more of that straight vertical force, right? And so with the main thing that I try to cue people to do is, as we're getting in, out of that start phase into the drive phase, we want to still put a focus on being able to get into quality dorsiflexion, right? So getting that foot all the way up and through, okay, and just working on the timing and being able to get that foot up and through, and then being able to strike back down into the ground, okay? Because I see that I think the most common problem that impacts the drive phase is not getting a quality strike into the ground. And I think what helps in getting a quality strike into the ground is being able to create that plantar flexion or downward push into the ground. Okay, and so really what the goal ends up being is we want to be able to get the leg to be as straight as possible, right? Because we see what happens here, that Marcell Jacobs doesn't get all the way up to full hip flexion, but probably in like the 60-70 degree range. Somewhere in there. And so what we're seeing though is after that, he pulls that foot back underneath. And what that pull does is it gives a little bit more extension in the knee, right? And so as you're pulling, that is what's creating that extension. And what we don't want to end up doing is we don't want to end up getting stuck creating this force downwards, okay? We want to be able to get as much of a pullback as we possibly can. And during the start phase, it's not going to be near as much as the top end speed, obviously, but the better we can achieve it and the sooner we can achieve it, and the more focus that we put on creating that horizontal force, then the more effectively we'll be able to get to our top end speed, and the better our top end speed mechanics will be. Because what happens is that once we see guys that end up getting too vertical with this step or pushing straight downwards with this step, is that as the foot comes back behind, there ends up being a lot of extension within that hip. Okay, and we want to try to minimize extension within the hip as best as we can, and really try to get the best type of shin angle as possible, right? And so the more we can keep that shin facing down, and the more we can minimize hip extension when the leg is coming, back behind, then the better control we'll have of the spine. Okay, so what ends up happening is, and you can see from pretty good from this angle here, is that you end up being able to straighten out your leg pretty quickly, right? Or get pretty upright. And so what the focus wants to be, and we talk a lot about the spine position, right? The focus wants to be being able to get our leg to be as straight as possible while being able to maintain kind of a forward bend in that spine. Okay, so when we get to the actual top end speed, right, where we're actually trying to maximize top end speed, so now you can see you get some little bit more knee extension right here, okay? Where earlier on, you don't get as much knee extension. We got to just get hip flexion, right? Being able to get that hip up and then pull right back underneath, right? Hip flexion, get that foot up, right? Not very much knee extension. Knee extension would be being able to extend that leg out and then pull back underneath. He gets a little bit on this step, right? But now this one, he's going to start being able to open up a little bit more. And then this one's going to be the first one where he gets good quality hip extension. But notice as he's doing that, right, he's not really coming upwards in the spine, right? He's staying low within the spine, okay? And so as he gets the top speed, now is when you slowly start to rise up in the spine. Okay, so what happens is first, right, so like look at this step, right? His spine is still down. Look at how straight that leg ends up being. Okay, and so the focus is that we want to be able to maintain kind of that forward lean in the spine, right? A slight forward lean within the spine, and be able to really make sure that we're getting that leg to be as straight as possible, right? Or as extended as possible, if that's a better way to be able to clarify it. So then we can transition off of the ground and be able to maximize horizontal force. And then as we start to be able to create that leg cycle there, right, we're cycling our legs, we're getting momentum, then we can start to stand up within the spine. Okay, so being able to get to the correct cycling of the legs and the correct mechanics within the legs happens before we get to the right spine position, right? Then we start to get upwards with the spine position. As we get upwards with the spine position, now we can fully optimize what it is that we're doing within the lower body, right? So we get to the correct range within the lower body first, then we get to the correct positioning within the spine, then we get to the max speed that we can achieve or continue to build up to what our max speed is that we can achieve, and then we're just trying to be able to maintain that for as long as we can. Obviously, when it comes to like a 40-yard dash, right, we're not going to be able to have very many steps of that, but when it comes to 100 yards, right, then, and maybe even 200 yards, 200 you're going to have a little bit different kind of strategy at the start, but, the 100 yards, we're going to go and be able to just maintain that, right, as long as we can. Maintain that upright position, that fast turnover, the limited amount of time on the ground as possible, but being able to maximize the amount of force pushed into the ground or pulled into the ground. I really like to think of it more of a pull because I think you're pulling that leg back there. Okay, and then when your foot's coming off the ground, it really wants to be just a toe off. It doesn't really want to be a push off. I think that's an important thing to be able to distinguish, and so I'll just go ahead and throw a quick little bit in there. So if you have any questions about that, that would hopefully answer it. But yeah, guys, I want to be able to help you guys out with the drive phase. I want to make it so you can understand some of these critical points of your sprint. I've been doing this a lot with people that are in the different programs. Is, the importance of the video is now I could be able to see like when you're practicing and when you're trying to correct the issues, what's going on, right? And so when we can go over the drills and make sure you're doing the drills correctly, make sure you're doing the practice correctly and going through some of the mechanics, and I can go and actually video it or you video it and I can actually break it down and go and explain what's happening and why you're not getting the result or what's going to be the next step from here, right? That gives us the ability to be able to build your speed. Right, and so what this speed program is, the reason you can get cheaper speed programs is because the speed program with me comes with me coaching you. It's not another person coaching you, right? It's not a tutorial of videos, right? It's actually me, getting on a Zoom call, doing a breakdown, doing a video, sending you a drill, sending you an exercise, making it so you are able to actually get the response. So while you might be paying for something that's a little bit more expensive, what you're going to be getting is going to be far more valuable than just a set of random exercises or a set of random video templates that will be able to help you out. It's actual coaching. Because again, what I've found is that people end up making mistakes within the drills, within the exercises, and that's what's holding them back. They see the drills, they see the exercises, and they think that they're doing it correctly, but really they're not doing it correctly, and that's why you're not seeing the result. Okay, so that's where you end up getting quality coaching, right? And quality coaching matters is when it comes to really being able to develop your speed mechanics, right? From the start through the drive to the top end speed, and having a coach that can actually walk you through all the different parts there. All right, so as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the channel. I do videos like this all the time. I built my speed up to 22 miles an hour. I put in the work. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to be very diligent about what it is that you're doing on every single step. Every step matters. Every position within your toe, your knee, your hip, your arm, it all matters. Okay, so don't take any of it for granted. The people that are not getting faster are taking their mechanics for granted and think that they're just going to be able to get faster by getting stronger or whatever. The way to get faster is to be able to improve your sprinting technique, period, right? Unless you're really young and really not very strong. But the guys that are watching this video, I would bet that they have a lot of strength, a lot of power, a lot of natural ability, but don't know how to go to that next level, which is why you're watching that video, which is where I can help you out within the programming. Right? Or continue to watch these videos, right? Subscribe and like. That makes a huge difference for me. So if you're watching this video and haven't subscribed, haven't liked, and gotten a lot out of it, then you're really kind of messing with me. It's kind of messed up, to be honest with you. But yeah, we're going to sign off now, and we'll talk to you soon.